So it's February 2020, and you're hearing more and more about this coronavirus. And someone says it's going to get worse before it gets better. Everyone will be wearing masks. Businesses, including churches, will be closed. Many thousands will die. God forbid, Lord, that no such thing will ever happen, you say. Or you're married, 3 kids, 2-income family, and you just learned that your spouse has been called up by the National Guard as being shipped out to the most dangerous battleground in the world. God forbid, Lord, no such thing will ever happen. Or a fire breaks out in your neighborhood, and you're told you have 10 minutes to get out of your home because the fire is coming and will destroy everything in its path. God forbid, Lord, no such thing will ever happen, you say. These are all atrocious things that happen. Like what Peter hears. And like him, we too would want to say those words. We want to deny tough things, typically. We don't want to believe they will happen. We want to stay in the realm of the positive. We don't even want to think about the bad stuff that happens. And when it does happen, our world can fall apart. We can question everything, including God. And God, for some, is often the first one to go. I don't think God exists because if God existed, he would not let such things happen. Last week, remember in the gospel, Jesus asks, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And I think this week we get his answer. The one who will suffer, who will die, and who will rise again. Peter didn't like that answer. He much preferred the one he gave, which we heard last week. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. That didn't bear any suffering or death with it, or so he thought. But this is the very point as Matthew's gospel story unfolds. Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. From this point in the gospel, there's a shift, a new phase that reminds the listener that there will be suffering in following Christ, in the things we must hear and speak and do. Because as Jeremiah and Jesus discovered, the message and the challenge, even the healings, might not be well received. And like Peter, our first inclination might be to deny it. A great thinker, writer, G.K. Chesterton wrote, "The Christian faith has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried." God forbid, no such thing will ever happen, Lord. But suffering and crucifixion at the hands of others did happen and still does happen. And sometimes we have to deny ourselves as the center of our own existence so that we can see it and so that we stop denying Christ. That's why Jesus calls Peter Satan, an obstacle. It's interesting, isn't it? The rock on which Jesus would build his church becomes the rock in the way of Jesus' mission. because he did not want to have to see it or hear it or act upon it. We know to take up your cross and follow Jesus doesn't mean just to wear one around our necks. It means we're willing to risk our necks, to speak out for others as Jesus did. It means we are willing to deny ourselves and our way in whatever ways the Lord may place in front of us. Father Luis Espinal was a Jesuit who was born in Spain and eventually worked in Bolivia in the late 60s and 70s. He was an author and a producer of film. And Father Luis often spoke out about the corruption and human rights abuses of the government until in March of 1980, he was tortured and killed. And in one of his books entitled Religion, Father Luis wrote these very powerful words. Whoever does not have the courage to speak on behalf of other people does not have the right to speak with God. Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. The gospel follows up on St. Paul's words that we heard in the second reading. Do not conform yourselves to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God. I think that renewal calls us to look ever more deeply into the Word of God, to know that will in Jesus Christ, the Word made flesh, which always stands with the poor and the sick and those most excluded on the margins of society. That we may do what is good and pleasing and perfect, and that we may also know the third part of Jesus' prediction: to suffer, to die, and to rise again.